my channel. In today's video, we are doing a inspired by Jennifer McGuire kind of card, and it's also going to be a shaped card. So she did this a video similar to this. I can't even remember how long ago, but I had saved it and finally had some stamps and dies that I wanted to use to recreate a card that she made. So what I have here is a layering die set. This is a circle layering die set, I believe from Simon, but any shape you have will work, or any company you have will work. And I have cut this circle out 4 times from just HAMMERMILL cardstock. On 2 of them, I have put a score line about 1/2 inch in. This is going to create the hinge so we can have a shaped card. That will make more sense later on. I just scored it and then folded it back and forth using my bone folder to reinforce that, since that will essentially be the working mechanism of our shaped card. Here I have a 5x7 piece of scrap paper. We will use that later, as well as these other 2 remaining circles. What I'm going to start with is my ink blending. So she used a kitchen sink stamps layering butterfly stamp set. I don't have that. What I have is this set right here. It has a stamp, stencil, die, and foil plate. If you know what company this is from, please let me know in the comments below. I don't have it written down, so if you know, let me know. But anything you have will work. And you don't even have to use butterflies. You could use hearts or stars or gnomes, whatever critter you wanted, fish. This has 4 stencils with it, and they are labeled and etched in the bottom left-hand corner. I tried to show you that there unsuccessfully. I stamped these on some HAMMERMILL cardstock that was just cut down to size. And then I stamped these in Gina K Amalgum Obsidian ink, and I let these dry for a couple of days. They do not have to dry that long. That was just when I came back to them. But if you've watched any of my previous videos, you know that I was really struggling with this ink. And I noticed nobody else was. And so I just discovered that I was not letting this ink dry long enough before I went in and did whatever color medium that was, whether that was Copic coloring, watercolor, stenciling, whatever it was. I just wasn't letting it dry long enough. I had even tried to like heat set it and it didn't work. So I just learned I was not letting it dry long enough, and I've had 0 problems with it since. I have placed this in my MISTI just to help me hold this in place while I do my stenciling. This is a waffle flower grip mat that's in here. You don't have to do that. You could just ink blend on whatever work surface you have, but this helps protect the back of my card front panel here so that when I go to die cut these out, they are kind of clean on the back. And I did discover that I did get some ink on the back of these. If it was really a concern, I could have die cut this out again with the coordinating die and just glued something onto the back or used a sand eraser to get that ink off. But there was a little bit on there, but not enough that I felt like I had to do some intervention. I'm using all Concord and 9th inks today. I found these color combinations on Pinterest and I was really inspired by them, really liked them, and I couldn't decide between the 2, so I decided I would make 2 cards. So the first color combination I have here is, let's see, we've got Aqua Sky, Oceanside, Buttercup, and Sprout. And I'm going in order of these stencils, 1, 2, 3, 4, but I'm going to show you later on in this video that you absolutely do not have to do that. And I'm not doing anything fancy with my ink blending here. I'm just getting down a layer of color. And I believe I started with Aqua Sky for this first layer. With your waffle flower grip mat, I am using magnets to help hold this in place, because not only is my glass mat magnetic, but my MISTI is magnetic also. And so this is actually working really well to help hold these stencils in place. If my paper was a little bit smaller, I wouldn't have to have the magnets at all. My waffle flower grip mat would hold everything in place just fine. I'm going to speed this video up here. Like I said, I'm not doing anything fancy with my ink blending. I'm not doing any fancy shading, anything like that. It's just a layer of color. One of the things that you could do is add, a paste or a gel to one of these layers. That would be really beautiful. You could color these in, you could watercolor them, you could ink smush them, use pattern paper, whatever you have. But for this particular card and what I had in mind, I really wanted to kind of follow what Jennifer McGuire did. And like I said, she used a layering stamp set. I'm using a layering stencil set. One of the things to keep in mind is that I'm using colors that will play well together when layered on top of one another. There are a few spots on each of these stencils where a color lays on top of another one. And so if you are concerned about making mud or you're using colors that don't play necessarily nice together, be conscious of that. And you can use a smaller blending brush to get those layers on there so you're a little more careful and don't create mud. Here I am just showing you how I clean off these stencils. I have some rubbing alcohol in a spray bottle and just one of my flour sack cloths that I use for absolutely everything. And I just give that a squirt on the front and then wipe it off and they come off perfectly clean. Here is the other color combination that I used. I've stenciled this all in the same way. I just used a different color combination. For this one, I used Honeysuckle, Stardust, Sea Glass, and Peacock. And I will list all these colors below since there are 8 of them total. So when I stamped these, I left my stamp in my MISTI. I didn't remove it. And so what I'm going to do, because I want this to have a really dark outline, a bold, black, deep, rich outline. And so all I did was keep that in my MISTI, and I'm using VERSAFINE ONYX Black ink, and I'm just going to restamp this. Because I didn't remove my stamp and because I'm lining things every time back into that bottom right corner, I know I won't misstamp it. And so this just gives you a really deep, rich outline. That Gina K ink is black, but it's not as deep and rich as this VERSAFINE is. And I'm going to show you a little bit of the difference and why I do that on screen, and hopefully you can see it. Well, I guess I edited that out. My bad. But it does make a difference. Because the VERSAFINE stays wet for a while, I did heat set that, and then I took the coordinating die and die cut them out. What's lovely about this die set is it cuts out all of these butterflies in one pass, so you don't have to line up each individual die and die cut them out. It just die cuts them all in one fell swoop. So here I have this 5x7 piece of paper. I thought I would need a bigger envelope. But as I was kind of laying these things on here, I was like, I don't know. Let's see what a regular A2 size looks like. And spoiler alert, I liked it a lot better. So here I just have a 4 1/4 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock, and I'm kind of laying this behind here and I'm thinking, okay, yeah, that looks better. So I'm going to use this instead. So what I've done here is I've taken one of those whole circles, the ones that do not have the score line on them. And I have just lined up these butterflies and I'm trying to see what I think about it. One of the things I'm being conscious of is making sure that the right and left and the top, that these butterflies do not go outside of that border. So they don't go past that white piece of cardstock there. If you do, you're going to either have to cut it off or use a bigger envelope, which is totally up to you if you want to do that. But for this card, I wanted to make sure that the right and left and the top, those butterflies did not go outside those borders. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lay the bottom left, the bottom right, and the middle butterfly. And I used the bigger butterflies for this because the other butterflies are going to layer on top. And so you will see more of those, and I didn't want, it just makes more sense proportionally and with perspective. So I'm laying some of my bigger butterflies down on the bottom right, bottom left, and the center. And then I'm just adhering those down flat with glue and only applying glue to kind of the bottom wings, just because these are going to hang off. And so wherever you apply glue, it's going to adhere down. So I didn't want things to adhere to this white panel here. So only applying glue to kind of that bottom part. Then I'm going to fill in the gaps with kind of the next size up. Again, only applying glue to that bottom parts of their wings there and just trying to fill in the gaps. With these ones, I am going to pop them up. So I'm going to apply foam squares to the bottom parts of their wings. You see me applying glue here. I do end up kind of pulling these up and applying foam squares to the bottom of them. And I'm just using Dollar Tree foam squares for that. And that's because I wanted these to have a little more dimension, I wanted them to stand out from that card base a little more. So it gave the card a little more interest. So here I've switched over to my foam squares. Again, those are just Dollar Tree foam squares that I'm cutting down, and making sure when I line them up that you don't see that circle underneath them, so that they're up high enough where they're not going outside the right and left borders and the top, but they do cover up that circle shape, if that makes sense. I think that makes sense. And I'm going to do that with the remaining 4 butterflies. And because I liked how this outline looked, this layout looked, I used this as a template for the other card panel. So here, what I did is I took that A2 size card panel and made sure that everything was within the borders. Then I flipped it to the back and used a pencil and drew a line across the A2 panel. And then I took it to my trimmer and I cut it off. So that makes sure that I have a flat bottom here, so that now we're ready for our circle that we applied the score line to the top. And I'm applying glue just to the very top of that. And I'm trying to get that centered with that center butterfly so that our card doesn't open up like crooked. And then I'm going to apply just a magnet to that to hold everything in place. And I'm going to repeat that for the other one. So I went ahead and cut that off using the A2 size panel as a template. And I'm going to apply a glue to the top part of that score line and then center that with a center butterfly and apply the magnet on there just so that it all adheres. I used my trimmer one time to cut that off, and then here I'm showing you that you can use scissors. I do end up going back because if you look, you can see the circle frame, you know, the circle shape on this one. And so I do end up going back with my Tim Holtz guillotine trimmer and cutting that off. Now it's time for our sentiment. So I thought I was recording and I was not. So this is the Memory Box, what is this called? Gracious Floral stamp set. This has a stamp, stencil, and dies that cut out some of these larger greetings. All I did was put that in my MISTI, making sure I was lining it up in a corner, and then I chose the sentiment that I liked the best and used my VERSAFINE ONYX black ink to stamp that. I felt like that sentiment fit in there very well. And then here I have a Sakura glitter pen, and I am just applying glitter on mainly the bodies and then a few kind of random swipes through the wings of this butterfly, just to give it a little bit of sparkle. I thought about just spraying the entire thing with glitter. I thought about doing gems down the middle. That's what Jennifer McGuire did in her video. She did some little gems down the bodies of some of the butterflies, but I didn't really have any gems that fit, and I didn't have any like sequins that were small enough. So I just decided to go this route. Although those are options for you should you choose. And then after that, these cards are complete. So here I have them coordinating with a envelope. These envelopes are from Paper Studio. Here I'm showing you that they stand up nice on display because we cut off the bottom, and they are shaped like a rainbow. So it's like a rainbow of butterflies. And then that is it. So thank you so much for spending time with me today. I really appreciate you, and we'll see you next time.